Thomas is crying and Ridge is getting angry, and Luna is following Sheila's evil lead. Thomas tells his dad in Forrester's main office that he needs to treat his mother well. Ridge tells his son to go ahead and express what he needs to say. Thomas pulls out his phone. Ridge is kissing Brooke on the TV after the rescue in Italy. Ridge says he had to help her. His son asks, "Did you have to kiss her?" Thomas is confident that his dad wouldn't have asked his mom to marry him if he didn't mean it. Thomas says in a cryptic way that he needs this more than ever. Katie is telling Brooke everything about how great the trip to Italy was right then and there at the design office. As usual, the blonde cares more about Ridge than the numbers. She doesn't understand why he is still with Taylor. Katie jumps on the bandwagon, but Ridge is putting off the inevitable. Brooke says things just got more complicated. Thomas is back in town. Brooke Katie BMB. More. Thomas's comeback story makes people mad. Brooke is sure that Thomas will make her feel bad. Katie is convinced that Thomas would agree that they belong together when he hears about what occurred in Italy. Katie gets upset just thinking about the idea that Ridge might stay with Taylor. He has to break up with her, and he has to do it today. Brooke is sure that Ridge will help her. Thomas begs his father not to mess this up from across the hall. One of the main reasons he came back was to keep an eye on Brooke and make sure she doesn't go back in. "Please tell me you're not going to hurt Mom." He asks for it, even though he knows his father can't be trusted at all when it comes to this issue. Thomas Ridge bed and breakfast. More. BMB's newest plot twist doesn't even make sense in soap logic. Thomas admits that he needs this because he and Paris broke off their engagement. She hurt him, and Liam's family let him think he was going to die. He doesn't have a girlfriend and isn't working on a line right now. He's by himself and things are hard for him. He won't be able to bear it if his dad messes things up. Rich notices the warning signs, but Thomas says he's well. Of course, as long as his parents get married. He cries and says, "I just need my family." What will Lee tell Taylor? While Lee is walking by Taylor's office at the hospital, the world-renowned psychiatrist shouts out to her. She thinks she took a break because of Luna. Lee shrugs and says she was a disturbed young woman. They talk about Steffi, Kelly, and Taylor's engagement. Lee remembers that Thomas had troubles in the past when she says her son is back in town. Taylor is proud that he fought hard to get over them. She'll be there for him if he has a problem. Lee hopes nothing happens to set him off. Taylor Lee bed and breakfast. What is Luna doing now? Luna is pacing around Lee's house with the pregnancy test in her hand. She grimaces and says, "Negative," which is shocking for this reason. Sheila comes in and asks whether everything is okay. Luna complains about being stuck there, and is told that it's better than being in jail. Will Spencer is always brought up in conversation. Luna can't wait for him to find out that she's still alive. Sheila wonders if Luna actually believes she may be with him in the future. They argue about plotting, and Sheila's bear assault comes up. Sheila tells her it was a lie. A light bulb flashes off, and Luna thinks to herself, that might work. More. BMB just started a plot that will really get people talking. Sheila tells her granddaughter that she understands why she wants to stay out of jail. Luna smiles and says that people like them can make anything happen. Anything at all. Sheila assures her that she is cheering for her, and then goes. Luna takes out the pregnancy test, and says that she is making her future happen when she is alone. Luna gets a surprise delivery now that Thomas is back. Brooke begged Ridge to break up with Taylor on The Bold and the Beautiful. Taylor looked up when Thomas came into her office to surprise her. She sprang up and raced to him, hugging him and telling him how much she missed him. Thomas also told his mom that he missed her more than she knew. Thomas said that Taylor looked really happy and asked if they were still living with Eric. Taylor informed him they lived in the mansion, but she knew Eric would rather Ridge stay with Brooke. Thomas was worried because Taylor said some things about how Brooke and Eric were trying to get her back together with Ridge. Thomas promised Taylor that Brooke would never again get in the way of his mom's happiness. Thomas learned from Taylor that Brooke was trying to get Ridge to give her another opportunity. She explained that Ridge didn't want to upset Brooke, but he thought things were different this time, and that his priorities had changed. Thomas was happy that his family was finally getting back together, that Brooke would be out of the picture, and that it was finally their family's time. Brooke joked about making a splash in Italy in the CEO's office, but Ridge didn't want to hear it. He claimed it was a really hard day for him since he almost lost his Logan. Brooke wished he wasn't still engaged to Taylor. Brooke thought she was being foolish and stated she had a right to know what was really going on, and why Ridge hadn't left Taylor since they got back to town. Brooke told Ridge that she used Nick to make him jealous, but she really liked being with him. She reminded Ridge of their past, and how he said he would fix things when they got back from Italy. Ridge told Brooke that he loved her and always would. Are we going to live together for the rest of our lives? Or is this the conclusion of our love story? Ridge, don't let that happen. Please do something, Brooke begged. Brooke told Ridge that she understood he didn't want to let his family down. Ridge said the scars were real, and that he didn't want to injure anyone again. Brooke stated she felt bad for him, but he put himself in that situation. Brooke told Ridge that he needed to go to Taylor and tell her that the engagement was off, and that he had just overreacted when Brooke got the job as CEO. She said that putting it off would just make things worse for everyone. Brooke said, "I can't live without you any more than you can live without me." She was disturbed about Luna's cockiness because Luna seemed like she knew everything. Luna went back to the delivery bag and got a pregnancy test after Lee left the flat to take a call. Will woke Electra up at the Forrester home guest house with a rose in his hand. They kissed and talked about how great the night had been. Electra said she could stay like that all day, but she also said they were already late for work. Will told them to just call out because they didn't want the morning in bed to finish. Electra assured Will that she never wanted him to let her go, and they kissed. Will told Electra how much he loved her, but he couldn't stop thinking about the night he spent with the mysterious woman. In Forrester Creations' sleek main office, the atmosphere was charged with tension as Thomas, his voice laced with equal parts conviction and desperation, confronted his father with the weight of years of disappointment and the ache of longing for a family that always seemed just out of reach. Ridge, stoic as ever, grunted impatiently for his son to just say whatever it was he'd come to say, but the urgency in Thomas's eyes betrayed that this wasn't just another one of his son's obsessive tirades about Brooke. It was deeper, raw, and almost unbearably personal. With a trembling hand, Thomas pulled out his phone, the glowing screen illuminating a damning photo of Ridge and Brooke locked in an intimate kiss after the rescue in Italy. A kiss that Ridge had justified in the heat of the moment as an act of relief, but one that Thomas could never unsee, could never excuse, because the simple truth was that his father, time and time again, could never resist his Logan, even while engaged to Taylor, even while promising a future built on trust and stability. And Thomas, wounded but defiant, asked with a voice cracking under the pressure of 1,000 broken promises, "Did you have to kiss her?" A question that landed like a thunderclap in the room. And though Ridge tried to minimize it, insisting that Brooke had almost died and he'd reacted instinctively, Thomas refused to let him off the hook, his conviction fueled by his own fractured life, confessing that he and Paris had broken off their engagement, that he'd been left humiliated by his family's enabling of Liam's lies about dying, that he was drifting without a purpose or a line to design for, and that now, stripped of love, stripped of stability, the only thing he had left to cling to was the hope that his parents could finally give him the family he had always dreamed of, choking back tears as he said, "I just need my family." His plea both heartbreaking and chilling, because Ridge, hearing the urgency in his son's voice, could see the red flags waving furiously, warning of a potential spiral. Yet Thomas insisted he was fine, so long as Ridge didn't screw this up, so long as Brooke was kept out of the picture once and for all. Katie was in the design office across the hall, completely unaware of the emotional storm brewing nearby. She was gushing to Brooke about the numbers from Italy, but Brooke could barely pretend to be interested because her mind was so focused on Ridge. Katie, always the blunt realist, pushed Brooke to admit that Ridge's engagement was nothing more than procrastination. He was just putting off the inevitable reunion with Brooke. Brooke warned Katie that things had gotten more complicated with Thomas back in town. But Katie dismissed the concern, her voice rising as she insisted that Ridge needed to cut Taylor loose today, not tomorrow, not eventually, but now. Brooke's eyes glistened with longing as she clung to the certainty that Ridge would come through for her, even if she had to nudge him every step of the way. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Taylor crossed paths with Lee, the world-renowned psychiatrist, greeting the icy surgeon with genuine warmth, confiding that she'd taken some leave time partly because of Luna's ongoing situation. and when Lee shrugged off Luna as a troubled young woman not worth the wasted sympathy, Taylor pushed back gently, proud that Thomas had overcome so many difficulties and determined to be there if he ever stumbled again. Her maternal instincts sharpening when Lee admitted she hoped nothing would trigger a setback in Thomas, the conversation dripping with foreshadowing given that her son was even now unraveling emotionally in Ridge's office. But while Taylor and Lee were tentatively finding common ground, Luna herself was pacing anxiously at Lee's apartment, gripping a pregnancy test that had just given her a negative result, muttering the word with a grimace that didn't come from disappointment, but from a twisted mixture of frustration and opportunity, because for Luna, everything, even something as intimate as motherhood, was a potential weapon in her arsenal, a stepping stone to power, validation, or revenge. When Sheila entered, her predatory eyes scanning her granddaughter's tense posture, she asked if something was wrong, only for Luna to snap back that nothing was going on. Though moments later her rant about being trapped in Lee's apartment spilled out, her restlessness practically vibrating off the walls until Sheila reminded her that being there was far better than rotting in prison. The conversation inevitably shifted to Will Spencer, with Luna confessing with almost giddy anticipation that she couldn't wait until he found out she was alive, while Sheila, more grounded in the realities of their shared notoriety, asked whether Luna truly believed a future with Will was possible, sparking a sharp bicker about scheming, second chances, and faked deaths that culminated in Luna having a sudden epiphany when Sheila's staged bear attack was mentioned. Her eyes flashing with inspiration as she whispered to herself, "That could work." The gears in her mind turning toward a sinister plan, lifted straight from Sheila's diabolical past, one that would blur the line between reality and deception in ways that could change her future forever. Sheila, surprisingly serious, told Luna she could understand wanting to stay out of prison. Luna, with the arrogance of youth, said that people like them could make anything happen, anything at all. This made Sheila both proud and very uneasy. After Sheila left, Luna pulled out the pregnancy test again, and said out loud that she would make her future happen, no matter what. Her words dripped with menace, as if she were promising a dangerous reinvention of the Carter Playbook. Meanwhile, at the Forrester mansion, Taylor was overjoyed to see Thomas again. She hugged him tightly, and told him how much she had missed him. Thomas, hiding his own unraveling feelings, told her that he had missed her too. He asked her about her happiness, her living situation, and her trust in Ridge's engagement. Taylor defended herself with a mix of hope and doubt, admitting that Brooke was still fighting for another chance, but insisting that this time things were different, that Ridge's priorities had changed. Thomas, fiercely protective, told her that Brooke would never interfere with her happiness again, not realizing that he had just caught Ridge and Brooke in an embrace that proved otherwise. At Forrester Creations, Brooke cornered Ridge again and reminded him of their past, the promises they had made, the jealousy games they had played with Nick, and begged him to stop dragging out the inevitable. She warned him that keeping Taylor hanging would only make the hurt worse for everyone, and pressed him to end the engagement right away. Ridge, torn between loyalty, guilt, and an undying passion for Brooke, embraced her as she whispered that she couldn't live without him. Just then, Thomas, who had heard the whole thing, walked in and said in a voice full of betrayal that he hadn't expected to come home to find his father wrapped up with Brooke again. At that very moment, across town, Luna was accepting a mysterious delivery at Lee's apartment, snatching the bag with a secretive urgency that raised Lee's suspicions when she walked in, leading to another tense confrontation in which Luna snapped that she was tired of being interrogated, insisting that she had worn a disguise when she went out and no one had seen her, taunting Lee that she had no idea how lucky she was, an ominous remark that hinted at whatever dangerous plan she was already putting into motion, one that would merge her own instability with the manipulative brilliance of her infamous grandmother. And when Lee pressed, Luna covered clumsily, insisting she was grateful for everything Lee was doing, but once Lee was gone, Luna tore into the delivery bag, pulling out another pregnancy test, her obsession spiraling as she whispered that she was making her future happen, her tone echoing Sheila's darkest chapters. And while Luna plotted in secret, Will was waking Electra with a rose at the Forrester guest house. Their happy morning after was full of young love, but Will's haunted look showed that he still couldn't forget the night he spent with the mysterious woman. That night could very well come back to ruin the fragile happiness he had found. Luna Nozawa, with a negative pregnancy test in hand and Sheila Carter's devilish legacy coursing through her veins, had already decided that her future, her revenge, and her power would be built on lies, deception, and whatever or whoever she needed to sacrifice along the way. This set in motion a collision course with the Forresters, the Spencers, and the Finnegans that would threaten to blow every family in Los Angeles apart. As the sun dipped lower over Los Angeles, casting golden light through the sleek glass walls of Forrester Creations, the storm of emotions inside the building showed no signs of subsiding, with Ridge pacing like a trapped animal in the CEO's office, his mind torn between Brooks' intoxicating plea and the heavy weight of Thomas's tearful ultimatum. The sound of his son's voice echoing in his ears. "I just need my family." A haunting refrain that gnawed at him even as Brooks' perfume still lingered on his jacket. And while Ridge wrestled with his conscience, Thomas stalked the hallways like a man possessed, replaying every word, every glance, every betrayal of trust he'd ever witnessed between his parents. His fury growing with each step until it began to blur into desperation. Because deep down, Thomas knew he was hanging by a thread, that if Ridge broke Taylor's heart again, he might not be able to hold himself together, and that thought both terrified and emboldened him, driving him to extremes he'd once promised himself he'd never revisit. In Taylor's office, she and Lee sat together, drinking lukewarm coffee and thinking about the strange ways their lives had crossed paths. Their shared love for their children, their shared losses, and their shared hope that the past would stay buried. But when Taylor said that Thomas had seemed fragile but determined, Lee's sharp eyes narrowed. Her instincts told her that Thomas's return meant trouble, but she held back the harsher words that were forming in her throat, and instead said that she only hoped nothing would trigger him again. This word hung heavily in the air, full of both professional judgment and personal foreboding. Back at Lee's apartment, Luna was in her own storm, but it was one of manic energy instead of despair. She tore through the delivery bag like a child opening forbidden presents, her eyes lighting up as she pulled out not only another pregnancy test, but also a stack of wigs, makeup kits, and disposable burner phones, tools that screamed of the kind of plotting Sheila herself would admire. As Luna laid them out on the kitchen table, she whispered to herself that she wouldn't be trapped forever, that Lee's watchful eyes wouldn't control her, and that she would build her future just like her grandmother had built hers, through illusion, manipulation, and calculated terror if necessary. In that moment, Luna felt a rush of exhilaration, as though she were no longer a scared young woman hiding from the law, but a force of destiny preparing to bend the world to her will. When Lee came back from her call, and saw the strange arrangement on the table, Luna quickly put everything back in the bag and pretended not to care. Lee, however, wasn't fooled and pushed harder, asking why Luna seemed so cocky, and why she was talking as if she had everything figured out. Luna put on a mask of gratitude and obedience, but inside her mind raced, remembering how Sheila had once faked her own death, staged attacks, and disappeared into disguises to control everyone around her. Luna promised herself she would do the same, her eyes shining with a dangerous confidence. While Spencer was still in bed with Electra across town, twirling the rose between his fingers and enjoying the glow of a love that felt new, real, and simple. But beneath his smile was a nagging sense of unease, the memory of that night with the mysterious woman. One he could barely remember but couldn't shake, as if some part of him knew the past would not stay buried, and the truth would claw its way to the surface, especially if Luna ever revealed herself. Even though he kissed Electra and told her he loved her, a cold knot tightened in his chest.